Is it really bad? I mean, as long as you can hear me okay. Nah. Well, the poor air conditioner is not keeping up as usual, so if you guys see me sweating in here, we had a noise gate set up on the microphone, but the problem was that it wasn't picking up what I was saying. So I wasn't loud enough to get past the noise gate. So you couldn't hear the background noise, but you also couldn't hear me. So I messed with that this time. Yeah, just so long as you can still hear me. But last time, like I said, I wasn't loud enough, and the noise gate was turned up, so it would just not pick up what I was saying. So I don't know who all is watching other than my wife, but tonight's stream is going to be titled "Lowered Expaintations." If anybody remembers the old Mad TV skit, the point of it is to try things that I've never tried before, or to try to fix maybe mistakes or little boo-boos I've done in the past. But just trying stuff I've never tried before, or trying to fix something that I've already messed up. Part of that will be getting you guys, however many of y'all there are, to hopefully throw me out some colors. I tried doing some contrasting dry brushing last week, and I've never really done that before. I've always gone, if I do blue, I just do a lighter blue. If I do red, I use a pink. So normally what you end up with is guys who look like this. Well, it helps if I turn the other camera on. Guys who turn out like this. So you can see he's blue, but there's nice dark blue shading down in the crevices, and then there's some nice blue highlights all along the little sections that you would kind of expect to be worn, or maybe reflect some light or whatnot. So that way it gives the model a little bit better definition. And we are on a GoPro here, so I do realize you may not be seeing this in its best quality, but hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. That way the model has some definition. You can see all of its lines and everything. But on these two models, I just sprayed them the color that they are. So this one was administrative gray from Citadel, and then I washed it with Nuln oil, and then dry brushed it back up with Longbeard gray to give it a very stony look, which I really like. This one was done with Crystal Blue from the Army Painter, and then I used Drakenhof Nightshade from Citadel, and dry brushed with Sky Blue from Monument Hobbies, from their Pro Acryl line, I believe. I think so. I should probably write this stuff down. But anyways, that's an example of what I normally do. Let's put those little guys back without knocking everything over. And the reason why I normally do that is because it's just kind of easy. Last week, I went to Tyler, one of our employees, and asked her for some inspiration. Mostly because I'm terrible at picking out paint colors on my own. I don't have that vivid of an imagination, so I'll paint stuff and it'll be red. It'll be purple. I've done some inspiration from the Astros colors, of course. So I have some little Astro mechs. Please don't get George Lucas to sue me. But I've done some other items, and I'll show you guys a couple of little examples. There's my little guy there. Let me try to, maybe this will. I don't know if that's helping you see better at all, but I tell you what, you guys tell me. If you can see better with more light, I'll get more light. But I've done riffs off of colors. I've done actual Battletech paint schemes. So the Merrick Militia, they're kind of the National Guard of the Free Worlds League. They run their mechs painted purple with blue on the left and red on the right. I know you guys are seeing it backwards. You're seeing blue on the left and red on the right, but that's because I have the camera upside down and I have it flipped. So everything's mirrored. If you'll notice, I'm actually using my right hand right now, but I just, sometimes I need a little bit of extra inspiration. I did these guys. I really dig them. They were supposed to be Free Worlds League knights. So my recollection was different from what the camouflage specs say in their source book. So I just went with it and did a little bit of bright green and some purple, and turned them into Free Worlds League Legionnaires. The only problem is now they look like a certain character from a certain, story about a toy. They might look like Buzz Lightyear. So I'm going to try not to accidentally rip off anybody else's stuff there, but I could always use inspiration. So today what we're going to do is I'll give, I don't know, there's 3 or 4 of y'all in here. I'll give y'all a choice. We can do some mechs I have primed black, or we can start with some that are primed white. And if you guys don't want to chime in, then hey, prime white. Okay. The ones that are primed white, I have no idea why I primed them all white, because I have since discovered that I can do a much better job of painting mechs if I prime them black first and then airbrush on a coat of whatever color I'm doing. So since we have some white mechs available, I've got a ton of them here. I probably have a few too many, but there's a lot. What we may do today is we may divide them up into some sort of semblance for gameplay and then decide which ones we're going to paint. Let's scoot these guys over. There's so many of them. With these already being primed white, a nice anything on the brighter end of the spectrum would probably be easier to get a coat of paint on them with. So I'm not going to try for black. You can do that. You can do a reverse shadow technique. I have never done that, and I'm probably not going to let you guys talk me into trying it today. So please don't do that. Please don't ask me to do that. But if someone else who's in the chat, whether it's my wife or somebody else, wants to throw out a color, I'm I'm not doing that today. There's no way. I tell you what, next week I'll do it. I'll get one that I took some home that were sprayed white out of a spray can, and I got a little overzealous with how much paint I put on there, and I made them a little gummy, so they all look like they've been stung by bees. They're allergic to shellfish or something. They're having an allergic reaction. Well, if nobody else wants to pipe up, I'm sure you know who I am, Tabletop GM for Life. Because I think the only people watching the stream so far are people that we know from the store. But if you want to... I don't know which will. Oh, hi, Will. I don't know if I showed you these last week, but these are two that I did, and this is kind of what I'm thinking about trying tonight. So, Will, you're up since you're the only one in here talking. If you want to throw me out a nice, bright base coat, I will throw some paint in the airbrush real quick and get them painted up. I'll throw some shade on them, and then we'll try to do a contrasting color of dry brushing. This one was done with magenta from Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl line, and then shaded with Druky Violet, the purple shade from Citadel, and then dry brushed with Astra Wrath Red. And I did this one with the traditional Games Workshop, like rectangular shaped dry brush. This one, on the other hand, I did with it was the original base coat was black. These were actually zenithal, so these were a black base coat with a white shot from the top to give them a little bit of that effect. I don't know really how much it carries over, but I sprayed them with dark purple from Monument Hobbies, shaded them with Druky Violet once again because it's still in the purple range, and then gave it a little quick shot from the top with the regular purple from Monument. And then I dry brushed with Monument's dry brush, which is one of these rounded little guys, and did a layer of jade first and then did a little bit of turquoise on top of that. So I don't know how well you guys can pick up those colors from here. Hopefully you can see them a little bit better. Let me give them a few angles. Hopefully try not to show you if I have any trash or anything under my desk, but all right. There we go. Before I make everybody sick. So don't be shy, y'all. A forest green. Are we thinking of like a deep green, like a British racing green? Or are we thinking of like a leaf green? Like a British racing green, like a deep green. But not just regular old green. Now I just have to find my dark green. Now there's black green, but I think this might be a little bit too dark. There's a dark camo green, which I don't know how they pull that off, but the black green actually looks like black green. I'm gonna have to go get some dark green. Don't go anywhere, guys. Well, to my utter amazement, there isn't actually a dark green in the Monument line. There is, however, Camo Green, which is a dark-ish green. All right. So that's a nice green. Let's put these guys back. So, what do I not have any of yet? I could always use another cataphract. A grasshopper. A guillotine. I will throw a locust in there for fun. But another... Throw a catapult in there. So... probably the rest of these guys will end up getting the same paint job. But we'll do these 5 for right now because this shouldn't take too long. Turns out I already have some camo green prepped. So this is where it's going to get a little bit noisy. But I'm going to put this paint into the mixer real quick, just a little agitator, and get it shaken up. This is exciting, isn't it? All right, so we'll say that's shaken up enough. Now, whenever I use the airbrush with the Monument paints, their paints, we've all kind of noticed that they're the right consistency to brush with right out of the pot. If you guys have a different experience with them, that's okay, but you know, we're here in Albuquerque, we're 5,000 feet up in the air, it's dry, it's super dry. So if you live in Detroit or Billings or Seattle or Miami, results may vary. But up here, using a wet palette, just put it out on the palette and start painting. We don't adulterate it with any water or airbrush thinner or anything. This, however, is going to be put through the airbrush. So normally what I do with the Monument paints is I will crack open a new one and then I'll fill it towards the neck with airbrush thinner and then close the cap back and shake it up. I've had really good results with it so far. I have over thinned some paint before, and it's kind of embarrassing. But with messing around with the pressure and whatnot on the airbrush, I was able to make use of it still. All right, so it's gonna get a little noisy here. I'm going to probably go ahead and mute the mic. That way you guys don't have to listen to me airbrushing, but I should be done here in just a couple of minutes. All right. Can you guys hear me okay again? So we'll give those a minute to allow the paint to dry basically all the way. The great part about airbrushing is the paint comes out so thin. If you're doing it properly, you can actually shoot a spot, and if you have white primer under green, you'll still see the white. So if you've ever painted a house and you keep painting over a spot and you're like, man, why do I keep seeing like the roller streaks? That's what airbrushing will do. It will be a somewhat transparent layer, but you can work it to opaque normally without the fear of what I do with spray cans, which is just spray, 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 and end up gumming up some of the details and whatnot. So while those are drying, curing, whatever we want to call it, I'm going to wash out the airbrush. So a little bit of, I poured the excess back into the pot. Now I'm just going to spray some cleaner in there and run it through. If you've never airbrushed before and you're scared to do it, I've already messed up a few things and had to learn from my mistakes. Just don't be scared. Investing in an airbrush can cost a lot of money if you want to get super fancy, but if you're just doing stuff like I'm doing, putting a base coat on a model, I'm not trying to add details. I'm not doing stripes or glow effects or anything like that. I'm just aiming the brush at the model and shooting paint at it. In that case, you can get a decent airbrush setup for less than $200. We sell this airbrush here at the store. However, we do not have the compressors just yet. So you can get this brush that I'm using right now, but no compressor. So if any of you guys work at an airbrush company, answer my emails or something. And water. The last thing I do before I put the brush away completely, if I'm not going to go ahead and do a deep clean on it, meaning taking the nozzle off, cleaning behind the paint nozzle, pulling the needle out, cleaning the needle, flushing the line all the way down. If I haven't done, an hour's worth of airbrushing, I'll go ahead and I'll spray some cleaner in it. I'll try to agitate the crusty bits off the side, because the last thing you want is the crusty bits that have basically just dried in the pot, your little bit of pudding skin. You don't want that getting down into the chamber where the paint needs to go. A little bit can clog it, but it's also pretty easy to clean it out. So first thing I always do is spray some cleaner in it, run plenty of cleaner through it. That way if there is any paint in there, at least it hopefully has some cleaner in it, and that'll keep it from drying and gunking up. And then I just want to make sure that the bowl is clean, because if you leave any paint in the bowl, it's going to dry, it's going to crust up, and there's a pretty good chance next time you put something in there, it'll break that loose and get sucked into the airway. But the last thing I do is put a little bit of airbrush thinner in it. I don't know if this actually works. This was just a recommendation from somebody, and I've done it. And until somebody tells me otherwise, I'm probably going to keep doing it. So I just put like 2 or 3 drops in there. Give it a good little squirt there. And then I put it away. One thing you need to remember to do is, if you're using a compressor that is tankless, is you want to go ahead and release the air that's in there. That way you're not just storing air in it, because it's not really meant to store air, it's meant to go. So last thing we'll do is release the air. And that's that easy. All right, so now we have some nice little green guys here. Oh, now I'm dropping him. So this little guy's catapult. And then we have the guillotine. And next up is the grasshopper, which is appropriate that he's green. Then we have the cataphract, which, if anybody can tell me what an actual cataphract is, tell me what it is. And the last thing, we have the locust. So another insect mech. Now that they have a primer coat of actual primer. And primer, as far as I understand, because I haven't delved into the science behind it, but a primer coat is a lot like paint, but just different enough that you need to probably let it cure. So it says on the back of the bottle, once you spray the model, let it cure for 24 hours before you mess with it. I sprayed these a few days ago, so they've had plenty. Well, I sprayed these weeks ago, so they've had plenty of time. The green paint that goes on them, however, dries pretty fast. So these guys are dry enough right now to go ahead and put some shader on. And there's multiple ways to do this, and I still haven't decided which one is the best way for me. Army Painter has a new triad color system that will give you a nice ombre effect when you use the 3 colors in that triad. So if you're using something like white, You don't actually start out with white. You start off with sort of a grayish white, and then you go up to a more white, grayish white, and then the last top coat where you just like zap on the last coat is white. I'm a little weird about it, so these have just a complete coat of green. I've done it both ways, where I've done the color triad, and then I've also done just two colors, where maybe I'll take this was Camo Green from from Monument. Maybe I'll spray it with dark Camo Green, and then I'll just from the top just hit it with a quick shot of regular Camo Green. That way it gives it that faded light effect look. Of course, the one that I've done that has the ultra effect on it. Oh, never mind. I do have it. This little guy that you can't see. So this was done with the Army Painter color triad, and you've got some nice definition and lines and whatnot down in the bottom, but once you get to the top, it doesn't have as much as I was thinking. Now this may just be because this is one of the first times I've ever used it, and now that I'm looking at the model, I can actually see that one side looks the way that I want it to and the other side doesn't. And it might be that I just went ham with the top coat and just put a little bit too much on one side. But this gives a wonderful look to start painting the mech. If it wasn't for this side right here, I don't know if you guys can tell the difference through the camera, but this side, the lines are definitely more pronounced than this side. If it wasn't for this little bit, I would feel comfortable adding details to this and just painting it and going on with it. However, I feel a little bit weird not shading the model. So with these green guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shade them. Now, what color shade do I want to use? Do I want to go with a slightly more aquatic blue-green effect with the Colia green shade? Or do I want to use the Athonian camo shade, which is basically just this color, and it's going to make it a little darker. It's not going to mess with it a whole lot. You don't have to use a color matching scheme. You can use black, Nuln oil. You can use one of the Army Painter dips where they have dark tone, medium tone, soft tone, and those are very old school. They look like little cans of like tabletop varnish, and you go get some pliers and you just hold your little guy and you bloop, dunk him into the can and then flip him over. If there's any crazy excess, you just shake it off. I'm not quite there yet. It's a valid way of painting stuff. I'm just scared that it's going to look super old school, and I'm not that old school. There's also Biel-tan Green, which is almost more of a I when I think about it, I think about it like a leafy green. I'm going to use the Biel-tan. Only because I've already done some camo mechs for my brother, and I used Athonian on those. And they came out super cool looking, and now I'm kind of disappointed that I sent them to my brother. I don't know if he's watching, but if you're watching, you better be playing. So I haven't used the Biel-tan in a while, so I'll stick it back in the shaker for a minute. So I apologize for the extra noise. I will apply a little bit of lazy logic to that and say that that's good enough. And thankfully, most of these stains from my previous shading are just off camera, so you can't really see them, but I'm sure everybody can see this coffee stain looking guy right here where I spilt some shader. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pick these guys up, put them on a little paper towel here that I was using earlier, reuse it. Yeah, that looks great. So we're going to start with the guillotine first. Let's move you guys out a little bit. Shift this around. And we'll do our very best not to knock over the pot. Now that I see it going on the model, what I'm reminded of more than anything is a certain set of reptiles who live in the sewers. This is much more of to put this on top of kind of a Sherman tank World War II Jeep green. This gives it a little bit more of a Saturday morning cartoon look to me, which is perfectly fine. It's kind of what I wanted on these. I didn't want them to look super serious. And I'm using kind of a big brush here. This isn't always necessary for painting something as small as a mech, but since it is quite warm in the office right now, and I am sometimes what people might call impatient, I'll go ahead and use a big old brush. So we've got a good amount on this little guy. Let's go on to the locust. The real problem with this brush is not so much the size of the bristle head, it's the fact that it's a normal length brush, and I've got this camera set on a ring light pointing down because I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to spend on fancy, zoom capable digital cameras that if you Google, if you search some of the other actual painting podcasts, not just the hey, let's kind of do this for funsies, a lot of those folks have super nice setups where the camera is somewhere over their head and it's zoomed in and it's got a perfect focus for the spot that they're painting, whereas I've got this little guy and I've got the GoPro stuck in the middle of it, and it does an adequate job. I'm not a professional painter, so I don't think you guys are going to be going back like the Zapruder film and analyzing every single frame of these videos. And if you don't know what the Zapruder film is, either you're not a conspiracy theorist or you don't know anything about John F. Kennedy. It's one or the other. It could be both. You could be not a conspiracy theorist and you could have not paid attention to TV for the last 50 years. I don't know if there are jokes still made about, somebody on the grassy knoll or anything like that, but just in case you've ever heard one of those jokes, that's basically in reference to the Zapruder film. You guys get a little bit of a history lesson when you jump in here. I've got the humidifier going. I've got it cranked up full blast. Allergies are, of course, getting to me like everybody else. And I've got a little bit of a dry throat going on, along with the very warm air in here after having the computer running and encoding all the video and everything, and also having the air compressor running. It gets a little warm. Makes you want to go open a tub of Cool Whip. Oh. Just poured one out for my homies right there. Oh man, that was almost all of it. Let's make sure that cap's on and scoot this over. And that's why one of the supplies I keep close by while I'm painting, shop towels. Super absorbent, sure to clean up any mess. Oh, thankfully I got the bottom of the mouse here and not the whole thing. So welcome to the stream, guys. If you guys are just tuning in, I've just poured green all over the table. A little bit of water. A little bit of airbrush cleaner. I mean, this is basically Bob Ross, except if Bob Ross was klutzy. It's the same thing. So now I have green fingers. All right, let's use what little shader is left in the pot, and we'll do this one last Mac. Hey, there's still some down in there. I think that the way I would have to describe using the Biel-tan instead of the Athonian camo shade, even though I've done both of them before over camo green, this one is a little more G.I. Joe than it is G.I. Jane. It's definitely much more cartoony in its appearance. Let's get a last little bit on his foot there. I missed a whole spot right there. A little bit on there. All right. And the gentleman is correct. We sell little pot holders that keep your paint from spilling. They don't cost very much. And as much as some people would like to blame some mustache twirling villain at Games Workshop headquarters for making these containers the way they are, I am certain that they had a reason for doing it. That way. Well, at this point, I'm not allowed to spill anything else because even though I say that my favorite thing to keep around is shop towels, I think I'm down to the last one on this roll. Go ahead and set that little guy aside. Now we just have some time to wait until these are dry. We'll move them. Go ahead and get you guys off of there. Tell you what, let's move this up there and move these away from the humidifier so that maybe they dry a little bit faster. Super green. Super green, Corbin Dallas. So now that we have some green paint and some shade on there, it's really up to you guys what we do for a dry brush. I don't know if we're just going to let Will pick because he's the one here. Or I might pick. But I want to do something that's not really in the green family. I want to do something that clashes. So I was thinking yellow, because the yellow would be a nice high color. But maybe gold. Maybe we'll do some Pale Sun's a little too weak. I've used it on orange. I painted a yellow mech for Brian, and I think I used Pale Sun for that one. But I used it on the orange mechs, and even though it's so close to white that, using it on something that's already yellow. That's neon yellow, the army painter neon yellow. That's maybe if I did regular yellow first and then did a little bit of neon yellow. But I think this one, I think it would be a little bit too much to start with. That, and this is an airbrush formulation, so it's even thinner. Oh. I've got two golden yellows here. One of them I've mixed airbrush thinner in, and the other I haven't. I should be able to tell, but then again, I did just pour my shader everywhere while also having shader spill prevention items in inventory. Ah, shucks, I'm just going to use this one. It was the last paper towel. Tell you what, why don't we take a little break while these are drying, and we'll come back. So all three of you, don't go anywhere, okay? And just in case any of you guys are watching this later, I completely forgot to start the recording again. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you've missed me pontificating and talking about whether or not to do yellow on all of the mechs, and you missed me doing 3 of them. So we skipped about 60% of the mechs there. But that's okay, because we still have a few left, right? There's no mistakes, only happy accidents. On to the last one here. Ooh. Did a little too much there. That's okay. One nice part about this bigger rounded brush is it doesn't want to dive into all the little gaps and whatnot, so that way the little recessed areas on both sides of his noggin there, they stay nice and dark. Same with this area under here. It won't take as much paint because the brush physically can't fit in there. Let's see if we have, maybe we have enough left to finish this model without having to get any more paint out. Back here on his leg. I will say that out of all the things that have changed in the past couple of years, the biggest one is that I now have a 19-month-old kid. And I definitely see it reflected in my painting because as much maybe not fun as it as not fun as it is to have to change a diaper, you know, you gotta clean up properly for the little one, and that means searching. So maybe, you know, searching while cleaning has led me to turn over my mechs a little bit more and look at them and make sure I'm not missing any spots. You don't have to get one of your own, Will. You can borrow ours anytime you want to. The fact that she can't really hang out on the motorcycle with me just yet, it's kind of a bummer, you know? Once she's old enough to fit on the bike, hopefully that becomes her favorite new thing. But until then, darn it. You know, if you want to go anywhere with her, you have to strap her into the car and put her in a car seat. And, man. I'll just get a big patch of Velcro on my back and we'll put some on the front of her and just stick her on there maybe. Now this is thin airbrush paint, and it does have mixing balls in it from Army Painter directly. They're put in at the factory. All right. Let's do some neon yellow here. And let's see how this goes. Hmm. Hmm. It is showing plenty different on the screen compared to what I'm seeing. It's picking up a lot more of the yellow, especially through like this area right here. It doesn't look as yellow to me while I'm holding it here in my hand. What it's seemed to have done, you know, rather than being like an annoying bright yellow, it's taken the green to I want to say it's like a boa constrictor color. It's like a snake, sort of what you would see like on a, it looks like a constrictor. The green has changed. It's very almost like jewel jade color. Which is funny because Jade Jewel is our cat. Hmm. Well, we definitely didn't end up with with a contrasting scheme, you know, because this is very complementary, and I don't know how dark it looks to you guys watching it, either live on Twitch or later on YouTube, but it's it's much more subdued when I look at it in my hand than when I look at it on the screen. On the screen, it's super bright. It's the super green Corpendalis. It's yowza. So let's actually take so it's thin enough that the yellow, the neon yellow, of course it looks green on the paper towel here because the paper towel's blue, but it's thin enough that it has added like it's added some vibrance to the model. The grasshopper still looks very tankish. Like if you're trying to make if you wanted to do a Russian T-34 out of World War II, you know, I would say stop here and then go for your decals and add in your details and everything. But this, the guillotine, is now, I mean, this thing's space age looking. It's much, the difference between the lows and the highs is so much more extreme on that one. Now, what I really wish that somebody would do is I really wish somebody would invent like a dry brush tool, kind of like one of those apple slicers that you just put the apple in and it woo 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 woo. Except it would be like a car washy thing, except backwards. Rather than the brushes being out, the brushes would be in, and you would just like apply a little paint to it and then stick your model in there and have a well dry brushed model right out of the machine. I guess what I'm thinking of is like an MRI machine or a CT scan, but for dry brushing. So, you know, if you're a engineer slash doctor out there, if you want to go ahead and design that, I mean, I came up with the idea, but I'll go ahead and, you know, I'll let you keep like $500 or something. last one. Well, that's about that. So we started out with a model that was primed white, and then went with camo green on top of that, airbrushed, and then did a sort of, say, heavy dry brushing of golden yellow from Monument Hobbies, and then on to the neon yellow airbrush paint from Army Painter. And that has left us with these very very snake looking mechs. The neon yellow kind of stayed green. Kind of actually took the model, took the highlights away from the golden yellow that was on there and brought them back to more of a like bright green. Well, I went from neon yellow to neon green. So that's where we're at. What I'll do in the meantime is I'll probably go ahead and spray up these other mechs that are with them, maybe with a slightly different color, and maybe reverse the method. Maybe put a green dry brush on a yellow mech. Let's see how radioactive we can get these guys. So, thanks for hanging out, y'all. Hopefully everyone's still awake. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, you can subscribe on Twitch to watch the streams live. I'm gonna try to do as much audience participation as as y'all will let me. And I'll try to let you guys pick the colors that we do and whatnot, because you know what, if I'm painting mechs, I'm okay. We've also got some other models that we can do up. There's some simple fantasy monsters. There's wolves, there's goblins, there's stuff like that we can do. But yeah, this was a fun experiment, and it wasn't exactly what I expected, but I dig it. Hey, it's a happy accident. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. You guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.